Welcome back to the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny, the only NFL podcast. One of the hosts thinks the field of play is the entire house. That's Lenny. I'm Mina Kimes. A lot of people were bummed last week that I didn't do a Lenny joke. I didn't know.
I had a couple ideas prepared in case I needed to step in because they haven't been happening yet, and I was a little worried.
Just took a week off. But we're back. We're here. I'm joined. We, meaning me, Lenny, and my silent partner, and Ben Solak are here to preview Week 11. And I'll just start by saying, Week 11, way better than Week 10 in terms of the slate. Like, there's at least 4 or 5 really good games on the schedule this weekend.
Yeah, and there's several clearly good games: the Ravens, Steelers, Chiefs, Bills, Chargers, Bengals, whatever. And then there's a few games that have the potential to be like very, very good as well. Like Falcons, Broncos might rip, like just with the way those two teams play. Like everything's very exciting this week. I'm pumped.
Al Michaels getting Commanders, Eagles after Bengals, Ravens feels like the light at the end of the tunnel for him. Like it was very funny last week to hear the visible juice he had, the audible juice he had talking about that game. And he should have it for this one too, because this is a really, really good game. We're going to start here as we always do. We're going to go in order. Few games we are going to talk about at a little bit shorter than the other games on the schedule. As always, we are each going to focus on one side of the ball. Since I take home, you, despite your Eagles expertise, Ben, will be talking about the Commanders in this one. So why don't you start off? Like, what do you think so this is obviously massive game, division implications, two teams that have built a ton of momentum as of late. I think Jalen Hurts, though, said not that he doesn't believe in momentum, but that momentum starts and begins on every single play, which I really liked.
You can't any sentence that includes the clause, but Jalen Hurts says, is just going to move into nonsensical aphorism territory. Just a thicket of metaphor that cannot be followed.
I liked this one. I was like, yeah, I might have to use that to talk about momentum. He is from the Russell Wilson School of Inspirational Speak, that's for sure. But he's playing great football. So I'm excited to talk about that side. Maybe you're talking about the Eagles offense. I don't know. I'm curious to hear which side of the ball you're focusing on for the Commanders.
Yeah, so I think the important thing for the Commanders is to find a way to not leave the cornerbacks on islands, right? Marshawn Lattimore not expected to play in this game, still dealing with a hamstring injury that he suffered in New Orleans before he was traded to Washington. Commanders fans and Eagles fans will remember what this game looked like last year. This matchup, I should say, in Week 4, AJ Brown, 13 targets, 9 catches, 175 yards, and 2 scores. In Week 8, he had 8 catches on 8 targets for 130 yards and 2 scores. They terrorized Emmanuel Forbes, Benjamin St-Juste, and Kendall Fuller in this match. They got a ton of one-on-ones from the Jack Del Rio defense and just ate it for lunch. Even Devontae Smith, who wasn't the focal point, 7 catches for 78 and then 7 catches for 99. Like, they just lived on the one-on-one matchups. Now, obviously, it's a different corner room than it was. Forbes has been benched. Mikey Sainristil now playing on the outside. And Sainristil's played well for the Commanders as a rookie playing on the outside. He's held his own. But last week, George Pickens, right? 3 targets, 3 catches, 51 yards. You run into guys who are really good at the catch point, and you have more so have the body type to play nickel. Yeah, you're gonna suffer against an AJ Brown on the outside. And so Dan Quinn, who historically has run a lot of single high, running it less this year, the kind of middle of the pack, single high, 2 high, but on early downs, they still top 10 in single high rate. They want to be gapped out. They want the extra body against the run. They're worried about Saquon Barkley. And if you let Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, who AJ Brown's still averaging like 4 yards per route run, if you let them have one-on-one coverage, I mean, the Eagles are, firstly, they're just going to throw it consistently, and secondly, they're going to catch it way more consistently and produce on it way more consistently than you think. And so you have to find a way to protect the corners in this game. Safety help, press with a blitz, rotate coverage, throw the kitchen sink at it, because you don't want to live with this one-on-one matchup.
Literally, my point for the Eagles was, if the Commanders do the smart thing and don't play single high or cover one, run the ball down their GD throats. That is the sort of response to what you said. But it's true, right? So last week, I was texting you about this during the game. The Commanders played single high against Russell Wilson 81% of the time, and I actually don't hate that approach generally. They sold out to stop the run because for much of the game it actually worked. The Steelers, Russell Wilson was not connecting on those deep balls outside the numbers until he was, and he hit Mike Williams, right? And George Pickens on a couple of deep bombs, and that proved to be the difference. But to your point, I think against Philadelphia, that is a mistake. This has been the case with this team now for 3 years, which is if you play man coverage from them, you're basically asking AJ Brown to dunk all over you and then do it again and then do it
Yep.
again and again and again. He is one of the three best receivers in the NFL, probably against man coverage. So to go back to my point, Ben, if they do face more split safety, which I think they will, I mean, they have to. One of the things that's been interesting about Philadelphia this year is that they're running into too high, the second highest rate in football. They are playing, good football in that sense. Like it's what they should do. So I think this could end up being a big Saquon game because I think that the opportunity should be there.
Yeah, the Eagles right now are at danged if you do, danged if you don't offense. There's no schematic, okay, do X, do Y, and then you'll get them in a bad spot. Like it used to be, okay, well, the weak point was Jalen Hurts, so we can't play single high, we can't play two high, but let's just blitz the ever living daylights out of this guy, and he's going to make enough mistakes for us. And again, he's not perfect against the blitz, but he's now raised to the floor where that's not enough of an Achilles heel. So and then you can run games up front if you want, right? Okay, we'll stop the run with creative ways in too high by gaming it up. Eagles line has been too good. Oh, Jason Kelsey's gone. Oh, Jordan Mailata's gone. Nope, not a problem. They're still adjusting stuff on the fly. They're still winning their blocks. All right, let's find a way to cloud towards AJ Brown and still live gapped out in the box. All right, the other guy's Devontae Smith. He's like the 16th best wide receiver in football. It just they are too loaded with too many weapons, and the stuff that's been weakness for them in the past, especially the Jalen Hurts issue, has largely been better so far this season. And so it's a threshing machine, right? That you can slow it, you can look for mistakes. Jalen Hurts is want to turn the football over, so you can kind of get those peak plays and cash in on them. But in general, you can make an argument for AJ Brown MVP, for Saquon Barkley MVP, and pretty soon with the way Jalen Hurts is playing, you're gonna be able to make an argument for Hurts too. It's just like, all right, when an offense has that,
Yeah.
what are you supposed to do?
Some guy on Blue Sky, which by the way, if you guys haven't joined, I just tried to get Glenn to join Blue Sky. I am liking it. And I feel like listeners to this podcast will enjoy the normalcy relative to some other apps. In any case, some guy asked me to rank, I did an AMA, that who is the eighth best player on the Eagles offense. And I didn't even think through it. I
Yeah,
just shot from the hip and said, Landon Dickerson feels right.
right, like Mekhi Becton. It's so disgustingly unfair how loaded they are.
By the way, I like Thresher Machine as an alternative to Buzzsaw. That's good. Very
Yeah.
Midwestern of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, let's talk about the other side of the ball because I think this is really interesting. So I think um if you've been listening to the last 10 minutes, it probably sounds very Eagles optimistic. And I am very Eagles optimistic. I am going to pick the Eagles to win. However, I also think that this Washington offense can move the ball in Philadelphia. And that's what would make this, a high scoring, interesting game. The Eagles defense has improved a lot, Ben, in recent weeks. We've seen the youth movement pay off in the secondary. So I was wondering if you could speak to what you're seeing from that unit, the defense, and whether or
Mhm.
not you think they match up well with Washington.
Yeah, they can play more man coverage and they can be more physical, right? They wanted to hide Avonte Maddox when he was in the slot. They didn't feel comfortable with him carrying routes down the field. And then even like linebackers wise, they didn't know if they really liked their guys when they had to cover the back out of the backfield, right? And then you introduce the TikToker Cooper DeJean. He looks like he's 14 years old and he's got like the haircut up in the front. And okay, I know glass houses, stones, whatever, but still, I can't get over that. Like the sixth best nickel corner in all of football looks like he's a high schooler. Anyway, they introduced DeJean into the defense, and to this point now that they've ratcheted up how much man coverage they can play. They've ratcheted up how much press they play. Quinion Mitchell, especially, who like DeJean is the sexy name. He kind of came in midseason, has been a big part of the change, but Quinion has been
Very good.
unbelievable on the outside. They've been slowly and consistently ratcheting up how much they put him in press. They're giving him less safety help,
Yeah.
less cloud coverage, and just kind of letting him win on the outside. So that's a very big deal against Washington because what the Steelers did is the Steelers said, listen, like we're gonna just challenge every receiver you've got. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, Terry's gonna beat us, but we don't think Diami is. We don't think Noah Brown is, right? We're gonna take advantage of some of that weakness there at depth at wide receiver, make all of these throws really challenging, and then they rush Jaden, mush rush him and run the stunts, run the twists, and kind of let him go outside of the pocket, which is something that Vic Fangio does very, very well. So I think they match up great into this Washington team.
That pass rush, I think, is because I think, your point about the Steelers game plan is really good, or really important when we talk about this Washington offense, right? Like if you have a defense that can play man coverage and is willing to be physical with these receivers, you live with a few losses to Terry McLaurin. It's not a
Mhm.
great receiving group. My question is, do they have the ability, you alluded to this, to contain Daniels the way that the Steelers defense does?
Right.
That's to me the bigger challenge in this, right? Because the Pittsburgh defense, and I talked about this going into the game, they were first in EPA per play versus scrambling quarterbacks, and that is not that is a stat that reflects what you see on tape. They have not only a very good pass rush and very good run defense, but they're very disciplined. They,
Mhm.
to your point about the mush rush, they're very good at not leaving rushing lanes open for scrambling quarterbacks like Jane Daniels, and they Washington just barely tried to run him. Seeing that, Queen,
Yeah.
I thought, by the way, was excellent in that game. In that regard, it was like his best game yet in Pittsburgh. So I think for um, Philadelphia, they know what to do. I think it's just gonna come down to, like, an execution thing. Zach
Always does. Yeah.
Bond has been playing great football lately.
All pro Bond.
Um,
Send him.
yeah, I think for Washington, if you can run the ball and if you can get Jaden going on a few scrambles, you can
Mhm.
move the ball on the I do think that they can string together decently efficient drives.
Yeah.
But so I think that's probably the matchup I'm most interested in seeing this game because it's gonna tell me a lot about this Eagles defense moving forward.
Yeah, and I agree. Jaden's going to get his. Terry's going to get his. It goes down to execution stuff. N'Kobe Dean goes. He's got him 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He doesn't make the tackle. All of a sudden, it's a 15-yard gain. Like that's what Jaden Daniels is able to do to you. It's what he's done all season. The critical thing for the Commanders is okay. Brian Robinson is back, and maybe that base running game now, that early down running games, they love to hand it off. Like you find some success there in the interior. Offensive tackle Brandon Coleman with a shoulder, questionable. Right tackle Andrew Wiley with a shoulder, questionable. Other left tackle, because they rotate him for whatever reason, Cornelius Lucas with an ankle, questionable. This line's banged up. And you started to see that become a problem for the Steelers. And so Washington might get Robinson back, but I wouldn't be surprised if they find a difficult time running the football with some of the injuries they have along the offensive line. And so short week might really hurt them in this one.
So it sounds like you're leaning Philadelphia as well.
Yeah, Eagles have like a huge 3 game stretch coming up here. They've got the Commanders, they've got the Rams, and then they have the Bills. I want to say it's like it's a very important run for
Mm.
them, and the 1 seed in the NFC is still very much within reach. Right, they are 1 game back from Detroit, and that's a critical thing. And like they've been playing well. I think they come out with a bang. Home game against Washington, establish themselves in the division. I think it's a big Eagles day. Jaden sensed the rib injury. Man, he's like 25th in off target rate. So completion percentage of just around 50%. He's not throwing it as well as he did since he got hit in the side. So I think it's an Eagles day.
That's the last 2 games, Pittsburgh and then the Chicago game
Yeah,
right
and
now.
then no 3 because they have the Giants in between last
Oh,
3 weeks.
the Giants,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I do also wonder how much did he scramble in the Giants game? I can't remember. He scrambled a fair amount, right, coming off of the injury.
He did, yeah. So he did. His Giants game was, I know it was fewer yards per rush. I can't remember the
Yeah,
scramble total. It was fewer yards per rush in the Bears game, and then the Steelers was obviously fewer yards per rush and whatever.
barely
It
kept
seems like he's still moving fine. It's just
yeah. Well,
it could be the rib injury. It could be the Cliff offense getting caught up to. It could be the tighter windows. Like there's a lot of stuff going on, but it is worth noting. Like Jaden through the first 5 weeks of the season was preposterously accurate. They were converting like every 3rd and 10 imaginable. He was just dotting kids. It's starting to regress to the mean a little bit.
yeah, and also, I mean, those 3 teams all have very good pass rushes. Say what you will about New York and everything behind that rush,
Yeah.
but they can get after the quarterback. Steelers, I mean, the Steelers defense is just playing so great right now, so that was a
Mhm.
unique challenge. So, yeah, I'm also on Philadelphia. I think, as far as this Eagles team generally, which has been looking amazing lately, my interest is going to be in seeing them against the Bills game is going to be interesting. I'm curious to see also just kind of Jaden or probably Jalen versus a really really good pass rush. I do not think the Commanders have a really really good pass rush, so
No.
I comfortably Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Okay,
Jordan Mailata potentially back as well. So the Death Star is accumulating. It's being built. We're doing it.
such a talented football team. Everyone's playing well. Okay, just me on Raiders Dolphins, unsurprisingly.
Nice.
So the Dolphins 3-6. I talked about this with Dominique. Whether or not the playoffs are still possible, second easiest schedule remaining in football versus FTN. This is obviously one of those games that is easy and they have to win. I think they will. The only thing that I sort of singled out is like if this goes haywire, why, or if the Raiders pull out the upset, it would be if that Raiders pass rush takes over. Um, Dominique and I talked about this, Ben, and we can just kind of hit this side of the ball really quickly. But I was really struck watching the Miami offense against the Rams by how much of the offense's production had to come with Tua creating, and it felt like
Yeah.
all the quick hitting stuff was not working the way it has in the past, and that becomes a problem when you face a good pass rush like the Rams. Raiders still have a decent pass rush, right? They're still third in
Yeah.
pass rush win, seventh in pressure rate, because if he has to hold on to the football for longer than 2.5 seconds, you start to see the obvious cracks in this offensive line.
Yeah, the first thing you have to do when you face the Dolphins is you have to take away the whirligig stuff behind line of scrimmage, and like Chris Shula, who Shula's doing a lot of like weird stuff with the Rams, like they live in like dime and whatever. I thought he did a very good job structurally, and
Yeah,
then all
me
of a
too.
sudden you're losing to Tua on a scramble, and you're like, okay, well, it's not our night. Like this is not the way this is supposed to go. It is always like that's why the Dolphins' offense is always so polar. Like sometimes they walk out and they just dominate, and sometimes they walk out and they can't get going. It's because so much of their game is predicated on like the Devon A. Shane swing and the weird Johnu Smith double reverse pass behind the back nonsense. Raiders, yeah, like the back seven, the tackling, wouldn't describe it as the strength of the team. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of that behind line of scrimmage stuff is more successful in this game, just because I have a less faith in that defensive staff and those defensive players than I would have had in the Rams coming into Sunday night,
All right.
Monday
Dolphins.
night, whenever they
Yeah.
played. Don't worry
Dol-
about it.
Dolphins, I assume. Dolphins.
Yeah, Dolphins.
Okay, you've got the gift of talking about the Browns and the Saints.
Yeah. All right. Well, the Saints won a game with the Rizzler with Darren
I
Rizzo.
almost started MVS in my most desperate sad league.
That's a horrible sentence that
That
you
would have
can't.
won.
I can't believe they let MVS do that to them, the Atlanta Falcons. I was in Chuck's mentions just incessantly. After the second MVS touchdown, I was
Okay.
feral that MVS was doing this in 2024. Yeah, with the Saints injuries, I feel like every single week you need an update. But it's looking like with Cedric Wilson questionable, then yeah, the starting receivers again are going to be Mason Tipton, MVS, and Kevin Austin Jr. going against Martin Everson, Denzel Ward, and Greg Newsome. Like the move here for the Browns is suffocate the air in the passing game, right? Everybody up in the line of scrimmage. Don't let the tight ends get space. The Browns tend to be really good against tight ends because of Grant Delpa and the safety room they have there. It is worth noting JOK is on IR. Jordan Hicks is questionable. The second level of that defense is a little bit banged up. We have talked about Mo Diabate, the boy, the friend of the pod. But in general, like you have to win with your secondary here. You have to win with your safeties. You can't lose anything in the passing game because they're probably going to run it on you decently well. That's what the Saints do with this offensive line. And so take away the space in the passing game, pressure Derek Carr. Carr this season under pressure is like 39th in completion percentage. It's so bad. So yeah, just don't let this be a Kamara, Taysom Hill single wing game. Force him into some pass situations, and you should be able to do enough on offense to win this. And so the Browns are dogs, which I think is quite interesting coming into this game. I would say that they're the better team so long as Jameis doesn't Jameis, but Jameis is playing the Saints. It's a revenge game. So I think we're going to get good Jameis this week.
Is it a revenge game if Dennis Allen isn't there anymore, though?
I feel like Jameis, like, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? He'll find.
Yeah,
He'll find.
there's something. Yeah.
I mean, we're going to talk about the Falcons later, but as a rule of thumb, if Derek Carr is facing a team that can't pressure him, I stay away from that game. Setting aside the dead coach bounce aspect of that game, people were asking me like, "Who you got?" And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. I do not pick fired coach games." And also the pressure aspect, which again we'll talk about that with Atlanta. Derek Carr versus Myles Garrett and company. I would not feel comfortable picking the Saints in this one. I'm actually leaning Browns. I think also they'll be able to run it on New Orleans. Anyone can run it on New Orleans. So, you always run the risk of Jameis just going Jameis. But
yeah, even that Chargers game that they lost where he threw the 3 picks. If you look at from a success rate perspective, like
they were moving
Jameis is just better for the passing game than Deshaun ever was, and he makes it functional enough. And then their running game isn't what it used to be when Callahan was there and what have you. But like they still have Nick Chubb. The offensive line is enduring less upheaval and more stability than it has any point in the season. They should be able to control this game and win this game now that the Saints don't have the interim bump. But yeah, these are two of the most not trustworthy teams we've got in the league.
Packers Bears. So this is a dead coordinator bounce. Okay, that's a graphic term, but he's still alive.
Interim coordinator. Yeah.
Bears all-time bad vibes team right now. We talked about the offense a little bit on Tuesday with Dominique, so we don't have to get into it in too much detail, but I'm talking about the Chicago side of this thing. I'll focus on the offense, though the other side of the ball is really interesting to me as well. I wrote, okay, so I don't believe in the Green Bay pass rush. I do not believe in it.
No.
It's not good. However, Jeff Hafley is no dummy. He has watched this Bears offensive line. He has seen that they are completely unable to pick up anything. So my request for Thomas Brown's not offensive coordinator for this offense is, please, for the love of God, pick up a stunt. Pick that
Yeah.
because they're gonna come into this, they're gonna run games, he's gonna probably blitz them a lot. The most important thing they can do in this game offensively as a unit is be prepared for what Green Bay is doing at the line of scrimmage, because if not, they will be dead on arrival again.
Yeah, and when I expect a defense line to give me a lot of games, and when I don't think my offense line is good, what I want to be able to do is run the football, right? Run them out of it, right? Get under center, hand the ball off, and then you can bootleg. Because Shane Waldron against the Patriots, he wanted to move the pocket to help the line, but they're running sprint out in the NFL, which is like just preposterously childish. So you have to be able to run it. They were running it decently well, and then Tevin Jenkins went down. They're like, oh shoot, we can't run it anymore. You gotta okay, it's your right guard. He's a good run blocker. You gotta still be able to. You have to run teams out of a pass rush. That's how football works. And so if you go up against a Packers team, that yeah, Packers are 28th pressure rate right now, or 28% pressure rate, excuse me, when they're sending 4 or fewer, right? Like that's 10th worst in the league. This is not a good pass rush. You should be able to protect the line enough. You got your little 2 tight end sets that you like, and Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett. You should be able to protect the line by running the football and then go and play action boot. You can put Caleb on the run right away, where he's going to be better than when he's standing in the pocket. Because right now, Caleb's trying to like manage the pocket. He's trying to like, oh, let me buy a half second. It's like, dude, this is not. You got pressure from 3 different directions. You have to just bail, right? There's time to be a grown up. There's a time to just get out of this, and now it's time to get out. And so, boot him out, intentionally move him off his spot, let him use his legs, which he's so good at doing, and you can potentially protect the offensive line, hide the offensive line as much as possible. Like that's the smart thing to do. Even when you get that done, how good is the running game behind this line with DeAndre Swift carrying the football? When you actually throw the football, is DJ Moore mentally engaged? Is Keenan Allen separating? Like there's so many trickle down problems. But the first issue you have to solve is the protection. And to me, that's run boot. That's how I would want to get it done.
Packers 28th in DVOA versus tight ends. Cole Kmet, I feel like, is one of the few players on this team who still wants to play on this team. Throw him
And they
the
like
football.
stopped targeting
Throw
him out
him
of
the
the bye
football.
for no
Please,
reason.
for the love of God, throw him the football.
Yeah.
All right.
It's yeah. My of the Packers. My key to this game is just pressure Caleb. If you can't pressure Caleb against this line, then you can't do anything else. It has to be that sort of a game. I will say that like the Bears defense now got Montez Sweat back, Kyler Gordon back, right? Andrew Billings is out, and then Jaquan Brisker's still in the concussion protocol, which is a scary thing. But Darrell Taylor's potentially back for this game. Like this Bears defense is probably like
They'll
they
be
only
better.
gave up 9. Yeah, they gave up 19 to the Patriots, which feels like a lot, but it was on like 13 drives. Like they keep you in games. So if you could just string together 2 functional drives like this, you could be right there against the Packers, NFC North rival. You can do this. Just be normal on 2 drives.
Just be normal. About the other side of the ball, one thing that really struck me watching New England against Chicago is the Bears' run defense. I've talked about this. They've really regressed. And a New England Patriots offense that could not run the ball on anyone this year. 42% success rate, 0.03 EPA per play running the ball on Chicago, both well above their season averages. Chicago is 30th in DPOA against the run right now. Getting the players you mentioned back will help in some regard. I do think that is true. But if I'm Green Bay and I'm Matt LaFleur and I'm trying to get my young quarterback to play within himself and not put the ball in harm's way against a very opportunistic zone defense, I lean pretty heavily on Josh Jacobs in this one because I think that the Green Bay run game is a mismatch for Chicago.
No, I very much agree. And I think like the Bears have been not good against the run. I think losing Billings, who's like their run stuffing nose tackle guy, like that's been a big deal because if you want to make the math work, you'd be a 2 deep defense. You have to have somebody taking a body and a half, right? And that was Billings for them. They don't have an alternative to that, so they're suffering on the interior in a big way. Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd has been activated from IR. I don't know if they're bringing him out for this game or not, but the Green Bay running game, which like it's a little bit tricky to figure it out because there's been the Malik Willis games and like there's like noise in the numbers. In general, this is a really, really good running game, right? Like when it's just Jordan Love, when it's Josh Jacobs back there, and now you have the potential to add Lloyd as well. And so I agree. This is a run game and then a shot game because when the Bears give up their passes, they give up explosives in the middle of the field because you can break the levels of that defense, right? And you can find that space. And so, yeah, this is, you got to sit Jordan Love down and be like, all right, this is a game you don't lose. It's not a game you win. It's a game you don't lose, right? So let's avoid mistakes. Let's avoid negatives. And let's just move the ball down the field.
I feel like that's so many games.
I take let the offense work for you.
I'm taking the Packers in this. I don't. The dead coordinator bounce doesn't scare me as much as Eberflus is still in the building. So I'm.
Yeah, that's the thing is like they just seem like they don't want to play, and so yeah, it's hard to pick them. I think the Packers.
Okay. Ravens Steelers. What a match. Is this the best one of the week? I mean, we got Bills Chiefs, we got Bengals Chargers. Da, da, da. This is my favorite matchup of the
Yeah.
week. I mean, this is a great game.
It's it's especially cool because like I didn't realize how Lamar has just never played the Steelers. Like Lamar has
Yeah.
Lamar played the Steelers once in the 2022 and 2023 seasons combined. He has faced Terrell Austin, Steelers DC, just once as Steelers DC. He also played him when he was with the Bengals. Like we haven't seen this matchup actually like nearly as much as I thought we did. So I'm stoked.
I saw a great post by that account. It was on my For You, Ravens for Dummies, I think is the
Mhm.
handle. That was, I guess he screenshotted Lamar eating pizza and he was like, no, Lamar, you can't get food
Right.
poisoning this way.
It was like chicken wings on top of pizza. It's dude, for Lamar to take care of his body the way that he does, and then to be the athlete that he is so offensive to me. Where like if I ever look at a hamburger, I don't recover for 2 weeks. It's so annoying.
I love when they showed him, it was the Bengals game in M&T Bank and it was like 60 degrees and he was wearing like a giant like NFL coat and like a scarf and
It's a Florida boy right there.
that's me. I'm in LA, it's 60 degrees and I got my little FDR style blanket on my lap.
It's like it's 30s out here. I'm walking around in shorts. This is my time of year.
There's no valor. There's no valor in
Yes,
not
there is.
embracing modern heating technology. Okay. Lamar's playing, thank God, which is awesome because this is an awesome game. I'm talking about the Pittsburgh side of this, and I'm going to focus on the defense because the Ravens offense against the Steelers defense. Let's go, baby. It's actually, I think, very relevant is what we just talked about with regards to how the Steelers played Jay Daniels. They're not the same player, but my point
Mhm.
is, the everything that they did to stop Daniels on the ground, to stop the run game, to discourage him from taking off, obviously, um, is very similar to what you have to do with Lamar. I think, although actually it was Tomlin who said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Don't compare Daniels to Lamar Jackson." Which
Mhm.
Mike Tomlin is on just an absolute heater with quotes. By the way, you see the Deontay
Yeah.
Johnson shade, so
I
great.
I did. He's clearly trying not to laugh, firstly. And secondly, I love that he's also just like in a button down. He's just not in team gear at all. He's just like a guy who they put up there, like, what do you think about the Deontay Johnson film? And he's like, I'm not worried about it.
For those who missed it, yeah, he was asked about Deontay Johnson, who of course was on the Steelers, wanted out, went to Carolina, found his way back to Baltimore, hasn't done anything yet. And Mike Tomlin said, "Well, there's a lot of other options we're actually worried about." I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing here, but
I don't see him a lot on their video. That's crazy.
he is feeling himself this year. I mean, I don't know if you saw, I did an apology to him for the quarterback
Mhm.
decision. He is just dunking on all of us this season. He is obviously the coach of the year. But anyways, that's not it. Back to the game. Um, so I've seen the Steelers defense and what you want out of this very, very scary, very, very complete, very, very balanced Ravens
Mhm.
offense. And Ben, uh, the thing that has come to mind when the Ravens offense has struggled this year, and they have not struggled very much, um, it's been against teams that are very sound against the run and can stop them on early downs and compel Lamar to hunt big plays. The game that comes to
Yeah.
mind was the Raiders game. He wasn't even bad in any of these games, right? But
Mhm.
that was his highest average depth of target. Even if you take out the fourth quarter, whatever, if it's situationally dependent. Um, Cleveland, some similar dynamics. There were a lot of drives where you saw him just slinging it downfield and he was missing. It happens, or there was drops. And that is the world you want to live in if you're Pittsburgh. Your worst nightmare is composed Lamar who just picks you apart from inside the pocket for 8-9 yards at a time.
Mhm.
The RPO games working, the quick hitting play action, all of it. You want big play hunting Lamar. Now, how you get him to do that you have to be able to stop the run on early downs without overcommitting resources, which I think Pittsburgh is capable of doing.
Mhm.
And then you have, when he buys time, and he's going to buy time, you have to be patient. Joey Porter Jr., keep those hands to yourself, my guy.
Right.
When
Yeah. Yeah.
Lamar's running around back there, don't
Mhm.
give them flags. So those are the things I think that come to mind for the
Mhm.
Pittsburgh defense for me.
I'm so positive this game is going to get decided by a DPI flag late, right? Because it's like Joey Porter
Which
Jr. and the
side?
Steelers DBs with the Ravens DBs. It's like, okay, there's gonna be some awful call with a minute and 30 seconds left, incidental contact, whatever. Yeah, it was funny. Like I went back to the game they played in 2023. It was the highest rate of blitzing that the Steelers defense did at any game that season. It was the highest rate of man coverage that they played in any game that season. Third highest single high rate of any game they had that season. And this year, they're the highest single high team in the league, right? Like they have really become a like, we play make it deep. We trust our corners. This is how we live. So I was like, all right, like that's the style. Let's see what Lamar does against this. And he's like first and second in like every single metric, EPA success rate against single high, against whatever man coverage. And then you realize he's also first and second against like too high. And you're like, oh, this doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
There's not a matchup here. He's just very, very, very good. But they played that very aggressive style, right? They wanted to send 5. They wanted to move him off his spot quickly, and they trusted themselves against the matchups. Now that was a worse version of Rashad Bateman, right? That was I think a worse version of Zay Flowers. And I think that was probably just a worse version of Lamar Jackson as a passer. If you remember this game, there were like 5 drops in the end zone from the Ravens, right? Like Zay, Mark Andrews, they were really inconsistent. And so I think the game plan is going to be the same. You can just introduce Derrick Henry to the running game. The Ravens are going to get under center more and run out heavy personnel more, and you trust your passing game more. So a little bit in my head, I think, okay, if the Steelers play the Ravens the way they did last year and the way they've played most teams this season, like I think the Ravens could still like very much absolutely get theirs on offense.
Also, no Alex Highsmith in this game.
Big deal.
Big deal.
With Nick Herbig also questionable. So that could be edge 2 and edge 3. Preston Smith's now playing like 80 snaps for you.
TJ Watt, get ready to learn Patrick Ricard chip, buddy. Just throwing bodies at TJ Watt. Okay, let's talk about the other side of the ball quickly, though. Is that your point for the Ravens? Or because everybody knows that is
right.
the problem.
So the Ravens defense, right? The Ravens give up an explosive on 19% of their pass plays, which is the worst in football. 16% of Russ's passes go for explosives, which is the 5th best among quarterbacks in football. Like the issue here is so very clear, right? It's going to be we're just shooting the ball to George Pickens down the field, right? We're just going run, play action shot, run, play action shot, and we know there's so much space for you. I went to try to figure out like, okay, are the Ravens giving up more explosives because of like bad catch point play up against the sidelines, right? Like, okay, 1-on-1 and George Pickens beats him over the rim. Or is it more some of this like intermediate stuff that you saw from Jamar Chase, like some of the big yards after the catch? And the answer is it's just both. Like they're just leading in both, and that's how you end up with a defense that least explosive. So to me, the key for the Ravens in this game, I want to blitz. I want to send a lot of guys at Russ, because if I'm going to give up explosives anyway, let's take advantage of that 3.3 second time to throw. Let's take advantage of that late 30s quarterback who doesn't move the way he used to, right? If I'm already going to be giving up big catches to George Pickens against Brandon Stevens, what's the point of dropping 7? Like and you should still do it sometimes, but I want to ratchet up the blitz rate, and I want to send my Malik Harrisons, and I want to send my Trenton Simpsons and my long fast outside backers. I want to send my Ardarius Washingtons and some of the guys I want to hide in coverage. I want to send those guys at Russ, and if I can just farm a couple negative plays, get you to a 2nd and 16, 2nd and 17. I think I can get off the field now a little bit more consistently, especially with no Kyle Hamilton, which he was working out on a side rehab field. Maybe he goes, maybe he doesn't. But if I don't have Kyle, man, like the lack of team speed in the back 7 for the Ravens is prohibitive. Like you kind of have to throw chaos at Russ in order to survive at all. So to me, like I'm ratcheting up the madness in this game if I'm Zach Orr, and I'm trying to hunt some sacks, hunt some fumbles, hunt some turnovers. That's how I want to play it.
It's an interesting idea, because I think that the Steelers' expectation, especially if Hamilton's out, will probably be that the Ravens just play a lot of shell, sit back, and try to get Russ to, this is, to carve him up underneath. And I do want to say another thing about Russ. I know I've been kind of making fun of the go balls and like the variance aspect there, but he's been accurate on short stuff, right? Like the other thing he's doing other than go balls is just those little boots. Darnell Washington, short, and he's accurate throwing the ball, and they're getting yards after the catch. The slant to Pickens also comes to mind as a play that I expect to see again in this game. So I don't dislike your idea about sending pressure. The one thing the Ravens have going for them in this is that they're very, very good against the run. They're very, very good against the run without sacrificing in coverage, and the defensive tackles are turning it up. Right. Yeah. So that gives, because basically, I don't think they have to sell out to stop the run the way Washington did. So that should actually allow them to maintain a little bit more integrity on the back end, or at least not give up those very clear one-on-ones to George Pickens and Mike Williams.
Yeah, and Najee Harris, who banged up his ankle late in that Commanders game, did not practice on Wednesday. And I haven't seen a Mike Tomlin update from him. But obviously, like, you have Jalen Warland, you have Cordero Patterson, like, you still have good guys there. But losing the primary ball carrier is still, okay, we got to make other people do more stuff now. And we lose that really big body that can accumulate those body blows, right? And so, yeah, it's if this were not Ravens Steelers, if you took the team names off of it, I look at this matchup and I go, yeah, okay, the Ravens, they're the 3-point favorites on the road. They've been playing so great, like whatever. The problem is in this game, like in Mike Tomlin against John Harbaugh, the underdog is covered 80% of the time. The underdog is 23-6-3 against the spread. Tomlin alone as a home underdog is 18-5-3 against the spread. All right. These are the two best coaches in the league in terms of performance when they're dogs, and Mike Tomlin is the home underdog. Like this screams Steelers win a stupid game they're not supposed to win. Now
Well,
that if I know which the teams are.
I mean, even as we've been talking about it, I think we agree that the Ravens versus the Steelers defense is the more even match in this one on the other
Mhm.
side. But it's so hard for me to pick against Lamar the way he's playing football right now. Like I don't think I can do it. But your point is,
Yeah.
is very well
I
taken.
I'm on Steelers plus 3.5 from earlier in the week. I honestly think the Steelers win this game. I do. I think that the Ravens
I can
played a
see it.
really intense divisional game against the Bengals. And there's a little bit of a fallout from that. This is the first Steelers divisional game of the year. I think they're peaking right now. I'm thinking about the way that team celebrated the fourth one off sides that they got from the Commanders. Right, like I think the vibes there are great. So
Absolutely.
I think the Steelers win it. I think I'm furious about it on Monday because it was, in my opinion, undeserved. But I think they win it.
Patrick Queen revenge game. Could see him chasing
Did you
down
see the Did you
Lamar.
see the Deshaun Elliott quote? Like
No, what did he
Patrick
say?
Queen is Patrick Queen's just not in the locker room this week. Like he's just avoiding media at all. It's like not talking about the Ravens, return of it all, which leads me to believe that yeah, he's going to be absolutely out of his mind for this game. He's ready to go.
All right, let's take a quick break, come back, and talk about an equally scintillating game, Rams Patriots. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer: hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, Rams Patriots is just me. um, this is obviously for the Rams. Now you're getting to the point where if you want to stay competitive in the division, you got to start winning games like this. I'll just keep it simple. Can the Rams take over at the line of scrimmage?
Mhm.
This Patriots offensive line is very bad. Drake May has been uh, good in spite of it. Pardon me. They'd also have to contain him on the ground, which is where I actually worry a little bit about this Rams defense. But up front, they should be able to dominate, and if they can dominate, I think that they have the ability to take over the game and turn in a more impressive offensive performance than what we saw last week.
Yeah, and I think that the Patriots defense has been like they just held the Bears to 3 points, but if you look, they've actually been like struggling a lot this season. And against the Bears, they blitzed at one of the highest rates they've had all season. They played man coverage on 60% of the snaps, third highest in any game by any team this season. They could do that to the Bears. If you want to live in a man and blitz world against Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Cup, you can if you like, but they're going to start sending those guys across the formation and hitting them fast, right? Like you just can't. The cheese that worked against the Bears, I think, is not going to work for the Patriots defense, and then that leads to I think Stafford and that running game, that passing game, just having a much easier day.
Let's talk briefly about Matthew Stafford before we keep it
Okay.
moving. What do you see when you're watching him right now? I think part of it's been a tricky season to evaluate him because for so much of it, either the offensive line was non-functional or he was missing not just his 1 and 2 receivers in
Hmm.
Cup and Nakua. But he had them both this last week against
Yeah.
Miami. Because I'll tell you what I see. I see a quarterback who still makes those like tiny upper quartile throws, like the deep outs. And then, when he's under pressure or there's been a few misses otherwise in the
Hmm.
red zone. So I guess my feeling is that it's just a very inconsistent season from him.
Yeah. I do think Stafford and McVay are a little bit high on their own supply, where they're like, "Wow, we like look at how hard these throws are. You want to see how hard? Watch me throw this dig. Watch how tough this throw is." It's like, okay, well, maybe let's just make it easier. Like it's great that we can make these throws, but we don't need to make them as consistently, right? And all these trick shots. I will say the game against the Dolphins are two things that stand out. The main thing is the Dolphins took the running game away. I thought really really well,
Yeah.
and fundamentally this Rams offense still is run game first. It is that is how we start moving the football, right? And then we want to go play action and so on and so forth. And so I thought they did a great job taking the run game away. The second thing is that, and I need like actual time to look at this numbers wise and film wise because it's a bigger undertaking. But it does feel like this passing game, which is so reliant on motion, gets to the red zone and loses
Yeah.
some of the shticks.
Yeah.
It's always really important to understand that like once an offense gets into the red zone, defenses no longer have to cover 20 yards down the
Mhm.
field because it doesn't exist. You're up against the end line, right? Like there's 10 yards into the end zone and then it's just out of bounds. So it dramatically changes the way you can include safeties underneath, downhill, right in the passing game. And I feel like a lot of the Rams passing game is predicated on free access. It's predicated on cushions. It's predicated on, okay, we send these guys in motion, and this dude will have to cover him from there. And we can just get the ball to Cooper Cup right now, Puka Nakua right now. Once you get to the red zone, you lose a lot of that.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, the fact that neither Nakua nor Cup is like a Mike Evans caliber winner or a Debo Samuel caliber tackle breaker, like, all right, our guys aren't our guys anymore when we can't use motion and cheese this a little
It's
bit.
a really
That's
good
just theory. I'm
No,
not
no,
sure
no,
that's true
I
yet.
think that's a really good point about motion and the types of receivers they have that both thrive off of leverage, right, and
Mhm.
space, and in the red zone, it becomes more about physicality, size, twitch, guys who get open
Mhm.
really quickly, and
Yeah,
yes,
which used to be Cup, I would argue is not
and
so much
then
Cup as it used to be.
they're not getting north-south in the running game the
Yeah,
way that they were last year, and I think that that really shows up in the red zone,
yeah.
so
Demarcus Robinson gets so many targets in the red zone, and to me, that's a sign of
Mhm.
like, oh, because this is how they have to do
He's
this,
the most
right?
normal
Yeah,
receiver,
and
yeah.
they try to make Kobe Parkinson a thing, and he's lost snaps out of Davis Allen,
He's
and they're trying to make him a thing in the red zone, like
older.
that's not working. Yeah, so I feel like they're a little bit have a second nature to them when they get into the low red,
I
and
agree.
that nature right now isn't too good.
Yeah, they miss Higby even. Okay, Jags Lions, please do not
Mhm.
spend more than 45 seconds saying whatever you're about to say.
Yeah, Lions are 2 touchdown favorites. Mac Jones are playing. Listen, you gotta hit 19 go balls to Evan Ingram and block 2 punts and get 13 Jared Goff penalties. Thank you for playing.
One more question, just as some red meat to the Jags fans. Lions
Mhm.
fans are like, Lions, come on, get real.
Yeah, yeah, I say get over
Uh,
yourself. You're fine.
we don't need to talk about this game. Who would you like to see coaching this team next year?
Mm. I mean, like the answer to everything is Ben
Yeah,
Johnson because
right.
I want to see
Everybody
Ben
wants.
Johnson. Yeah, but I do think that Doug has run such a big boy offense for Trevor with all this like half field read, this, that, and the other way, read the progression, this, that it'd be really cool to see him in an offense that does a few more shticks. And I think that Ben Johnson is a big shtick guy, and so that to me would be the most interesting to see for
You
Trev.
know who's been doing great shticks? Liam Cohen, though.
Yeah,
I really
Li-
like the stickiness of that offense.
it's all just McVay. Everyone, it's just who's the closest to McVay cousin you can find.
Okay. Speaking of, back to the NFC West, Seahawks Niners. You're on Seattle.
Hmm.
You're discussing Seattle. I am
Might also be on Seattle, honestly.
Abe Lucas back moving ya?
I
You
I
see
saw,
that?
dude. I sent that immediately to the like all my buddies this morning. I was like, guys, Abe Lucas. I didn't realize we're getting Abe. We're getting Abe and DK. We're back. We're so back.
Abe Lucas is the Seahawks right tackle who has not played all season. In his place, it's been a combination of George Fant, Stone Forsythe, and someone named Mike Jarrell. Um, it's not been great. I don't know if he's playing, but he was activated. I
Mhm.
think he's the way they've talked about it suggests he might be playing.
McDonald said optimistic, which like that every coach says that, but still, let's live a little. Let's
Well,
hope.
let's stay in Seattle. Tell me about
Mhm.
what you're thinking for the
Yeah.
Seahawks in this one.
Okay, stop wasting drives, guys. Like what? They just I feel like Woody Harrelson in True Detective. Like I just want you to stop doing odd stuff, right? Last time they played the Niners in week 6, Gino threw an interception at the Niners 25 to the 3-yard line. They also had a first and goal from the 2 and ended up kicking a field goal on a later drive. The most recent time we saw the Seahawks against the Rams, I'm giving you some PTSD right now.
I
It's
know.
not going to stop.
I just happened. I had a week off of thinking about this.
They threw a pick six in the red zone. They threw another interception into the red zone into the end zone after a blocked punt, and then they failed on 4th and 1 from the Rams 16. Before that, against the Bills, they had the 4th and 1 goal from the 1 stop, and also on 2nd and goal, they had that 19-yard loss on the failed snap. Just finish your drives. Gino is still like 10th in success rate right now. Kenneth Walker looks great. Just be normal at the end of score points the way your offense is supposed to be scoring points, and you will very much be in this game against an imperfect Niners team that struggles to finish drives themselves. Like, you will be there if you just finish. Just put a button on a drive, for God's sakes. That's the key.
It's not like the Rams where we did this whole talk about like, oh, maybe it has to do with like lack of leverage and motion for receivers and like they don't have the right guys. No, the Seahawks are struggling in the red zone because they're kicking themselves in the groin over
It's
and
so
that's not a
bad.
kick. That's an elbowing yourself in the groin. I don't know. It's horrible. And
Mhm.
boy, by the way, did we see how much DK Metcalf adds to this offense? I never
Yeah.
want to hear Seahawks never talk about trading DK Metcalf.
Their Geno's passing numbers against too high are some of the best in football. It's like top 5 in success rate, is top 10 in first down touchdown rate. Like he's ripping too high, and he's using a bunch of different targets to do it. And Kenneth and JSN or whatever against single high, they are a DK team. And when they lost DK, they like JSN obviously he had the big day, but still like they lost so much of what they need to do when they get single high coverage when DK was absent.
If Abe Lucas is just competent,
Right.
competent. I mean, this Seahawks offensive line, despite Seahawks offense, despite non-functional line play, it's still like upper half in efficiency, and especially if you take a red zone.
Mhm.
So if they can just get competent offensive line play, I think you're right. I think they will be able to move the ball in San Francisco, but that's always a big if with this team. I will never be confident in that based on what we have seen this season. Okay, well, they're going to have to be competent because I do not have much hope for them on the other side of the ball. So, there's the classic Kyle Shanahan microscope on a linebacker meme.
Mhm.
The Seahawks have cut all their linebackers.
The Seahawks are hiding their linebackers. You can't figure out who's going to play.
In some ways, I kind of respect it from Mike McDonald, because that's like his thing, and he's just looking at the way these linebackers playing, and he's like, "Yeah, John Schneider, you made mistakes, buddy." And this suggests, by the way, that he has the juice in the organization right now, right? Because they are
For sure.
Sorry, I should explain what happened. The Seahawks traded away. The Seahawks acquired 2 linebackers this season. One was Jerome Baker, who they traded away, and then the other one was Terrell Dodson from Buffalo, who they straight up just cut.
Yes. Tyrell Dodson played 100% of the snaps in each of the Seahawks' last 6 games, and he was straight cut weeks after the trade deadline. That's crazy.
I did think Ernest Jones played really well against the Rams last week, so that appears to have been the right decision to trade for him. But I guess it's going to be Tyrese Knight.
Yeah, the UTEP rookie. I think
he played a lot of preseason. He got reps as a starter this
he played a little bit.
Anyways, so my feeling is like long term, I like that McDonald is putting the stamp on his team and just saying, I'm going to build this the way I want to build it. I also think that the Seahawks defense played pretty damn good against the Rams, by the way. Like I was really pleased with the push that line was getting. But this offense is different.
This defense right now, they have such an enormous split with and without play action. Because they're
worse in the NFL.
So they've been so bad at linebacker, right?
Yeah.
They are when they see a pass attempt without play action, they are 10th in success rate. They are 2nd in EPA per dropback. When they see it with play action, they are 29th in success rate. They are 32nd EPA per dropback. If they can know passes coming, then their linebackers can play. But if their linebackers have to have 2 responsibilities, it's real gnarly. And Brock had the most play action dropbacks of any game this season against the Seahawks in week 6. He was like on it, like 36 points looks bad. His numbers were like average for a Brock game. Like they moved the ball, but like they had a big Deebo Samuel touchdown. Other than that, it was kind of just fine. But Brock, like this year, is not a high play action rate quarterback, right? Yeah. Play action on about 20% of their dropbacks, one of the lowest numbers in the league. And so, and that was the same thing with Stafford and the Rams. Like, oh no, like this pass off is so good. So long as it's not a heavy play action team, the Seahawks can actually hang against that team. They really, really can.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in this unit against the Niners with McCaffrey back. It was interesting because watching that game against the Bucs, who have very bad defense, I didn't feel like McCaffrey looked like he did last year. Like visually, I didn't feel like he was like super explosive, wasn't cutting quite the same way, but his impact on the defense was identical to what we've seen in the past. Just the way, first of all, obviously they play a lot of 21, you get them in base and they just killed them in the passing attack off of that, as the Niners do. But just the amount of attention you could see him commanding, the way he was pulling defenders, the way they were spacing off of that or creating opportunities, for the other skill players off of that. It was interesting. And part of me almost feels like for Seattle, it's like, don't do that. Like I would actually, I feel like the worst thing you can do is pay too much attention to Christian McCaffrey. That sounds weird, but when we see defenses do that, they usually fail. Yeah.
No, I think that the return of McCaffrey came with, okay, like this running game is good. Yeah, it has been. And then they get into the red zone. And that was where I thought, I was like, McCaffrey's going to solve the red zone problems for them. He's touchdown scoring machine in 2023. And he was, right? They had 1 goal to go drive and ended in a field goal. They had 3 red zone drives. Only one of them ended in a touchdown. This Niners team has gone from being the best touchdown converting team when they get into the red zone in 2023 to being bottom 5 in 2024. In 1 week of McCaffrey, very small sample, did not solve the problem. And so I opened with Seahawks finish your drives. If you're Seattle, like you're going to give up yardage. They're going to get across the 50. They're going to get into field goal range, but they don't like their kicker. All right. Like they've got a big problem kicking the football and they got a problem punching the ball in. And so tighten the screws when you get into the red zone and see if you can get off the field with 3 instead of 7, sometimes 0 instead of 3. And again, so long as you handle your business on offense, like they should put up enough points. This line is 6.5. I'm on the Seahawks, and I think the Seahawks have a chance to win it outright.
I'm going to take the Niners, but I like the Seahawks to cover.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen the Seahawks beat the Niners in so long. It's been so long. I mean, obviously, I would love to be wrong. We skipped the Jags Lions. I would assume we're both picking the Lions. We also skipped Rams Patriots.
It was December 5th, 2021. Last you saw the Seahawks beat the Niners.
Oh, God.
What an electric game it was.
I assume we're both taking the Rams over the Pats, by the way.
Yes. Travis Homer had a 73-yard run in that game. Crazy.
Travis Homer.
Adrian Peterson had a touchdown in this game. Okay, I'll look at this later. Sorry.
Was the game where Marshawn Lynch came back and then they got stopped at the goal line? What year was that?
I don't know. I just looked at the head-to-head and found the most recent win.
I remember watching that in New York and just walking away. Okay. Falcons Broncos. So I'm discussing the Broncos side of this. I'm gonna talk about your favorite quarterback in the NFL, Bo Nix.
Bo's been playing better last couple weeks. And I've been very clear. I've been very clear about that on the internet. I don't want to hear any nonsense.
You got to get out ahead of this week because the Falcons defense stinks, and I think Bo's gonna have success. So you got to really like get out with your.
I got tweets. You go check at Benjamin Solak on Twitter, soon to be on Blue Sky. You check it out. I got tweets.
Since week 6, Bo Nix is 4th in QBR when kept clean. The Atlanta Falcons. Boy, can they not rush the passer. They also can't stop the run, by the way. And the Broncos have been using Audric Estime more, which warms my heart because I like him a lot as a player. I think the biggest mismatch in this game, because the other side of the ball is really fun, but it's a little more even. The Broncos offensive line versus the Falcons defensive line.
Yeah.
I think that the Broncos are going to dominate them up front. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Bo has a lot of success and this offense just keeps on rolling.
Yeah, and they've done a really nice job calibrating over the last 10 weeks, first 10 weeks of the season to what can and can Bo not get away with? What can and can't we try, right? They've taken away a lot of like some of the intermediate middle stuff that they wanted to get to, but it was very inconsistent. It's still there. They just are dialing that down. You're seeing a lot more like isolation throws into the boundary, right? Okay. Curl, deep comeback, right? We can just rhythm and go because Bo can drive that ball to the far sideline if it's 0 to 10 yards. It's the stuff that gets plus 10 yards that tends to die in the air a little bit from him. Their screen game and their constraint play game has been a lot more successful in recent weeks, which can be volatile, but like they handed the ball off to Marvin Mims as a running back 3 times against the Chiefs, right? Sean Payton's doing a really nice job right now, like chucking stuff at the wall and figuring out how to get a couple of sneaky plays, right? A couple of constraint plays. They just get this offense kind of kickstarted a little bit. It's just taking a little bit off your rookie quarterback's plate. They clearly have a very high opinion of him as a processor, as a decision maker, and deservedly so. Like that is one of his strengths, but they were a little bit over their skis to start the season, and now they're calibrating back, and that's helping Bo just play faster, which is really nice to see.
Okay, what do you want to talk about for Atlanta?
So if you're the Falcons, you have to find a matchup in the passing game that you like, and you got to hammer it, right? You know what you're going to get. Vance Joseph is blitzing right now, more than pretty much anybody in football. Third most blitz rate, I want to say it is for the Broncos. And then man coverage, they're third in man coverage rate, the Broncos are. And so you're going to get Riley Moss and Pat Surtain on the outside. They switched spots too. They're not left-right, right? Chase matchups. Now, I think a lot of people would assume, okay, well, where's Drake London going to be, left or right? Drake London's actually a slot receiver,
yeah.
Right? A majority of London's targets, 56%, have come from slot routes as opposed to the 44% from the outside. He's going to have Jaquan McMillan. That's what I would like to hit when I'm going one-on-one, especially because Kirk right now against the blitz, Kirk against the blitz, Kirk against pressure, Kirk against anything. Super low time to throw, super low sack rate, pretty low ADOT. It's just him throwing breakers to the 10, 15-yard range, right? It's just inbreaker, curl, the deep out, right? And so, okay, I think I want to go Drake London against Jaquan McMillan. Then the other matchup I want is Bijan Robinson out of the backfield. I want to throw him the ball and then create with yards
Yes.
after the catch.
Yes.
Broncos as a defense right now, allowing 1.45 yards per route run to backs. That's fifth highest in football. Backs targeted on 24% of their routes run. That is the fourth most in football. You play aggressive man and you blitz. It means one guy and one guy only is peeling out to go get that back. And so if I'm Kirk and I see blitz look, okay, I like Drake this way. I like, Darnell Mooney against the one-on-one. But if I don't see it right away, he's going to open up, get the ball out to Bijan behind the line of scrimmage, and then it's him versus Cody Barton, Justin Chernod in space, right? Like you have to be able to activate Bijan Robinson in the passing game in this one. Otherwise, you're going to take too much heat on Kirk, too many hits, and it's going to accumulate.
Yeah, I like Bijan a lot more as a pass catcher than on the ground in this one. And because the Broncos run defense is super legit. I mean, those defensive tackles, whew, buddy. And
the Falcons could get Drew Dahlman back in this game. The hope is that they are going to, and that helps their running game, but
still
that'll help it later. Not against the Broncos. In some later week.
The backers you talked about them in space, but they have been very good getting downhill against the run. I really like the idea of it's so important. And you saw Andy Reid did this with some success in the last week, is using their aggression against them, those well-timed screens, finding Bijan the way Patrick Mahomes had a lot of success targeting his backs in that game. And that was, I actually thought Andy called a hell of a game despite the difficulty of the opponent. And I would borrow a lot of what they did in terms of quick hitting stuff. A lot of great man coverage beaters in that game as well. Because the Falcons have all the tools that they need to do everything that it takes, but you have to find a way to make sure that this pass rush doesn't tee off on Kirk Cousins to take over the football game.
Yeah. And the man coverage beater thing is really important because the Falcons don't call a lot of man coverage beaters. They have them, but they call a lot of zone stuff that spaces out. And then it's okay. Well, if we get man on the backside, throw Darnell Mooney. And Mooney's been so good this year on that 18-yard comeback route, right? Or on that 15-yard in-breaking route. Like he's been so much better than I thought he would be when they signed him to that contract. With that said, as good as he's been, Darnell against Riley Moss, Patrick Surtain, I would like to go elsewhere with the football. And that's where I think Bijan really becomes involved.
Chiefs got DeAndre Hopkins cook Riley Moss a couple times in that game.
Yeah, he taught the young man a thing or two.
Darnell is faster than DeAndre. So I struggled with picking this one because I do think the Falcons offense is better, but I also think that the Falcons defense is probably the weakest group in this game. I find myself leaning Denver. I really do.
Home game for Denver. This game opened at Broncos is a 1-point favorite. I thought like the Broncos on that. Now it's 2.5. I think that's much more correct. I think Broncos are a small favorite. Kirk is first in the league right now in EPA per dropback against man. It's totally inflated, stupid numbers because it's like all of his Eagles late drive throws and his Saints late drive throws and all that nonsense. But he had Kirk has been very accurate and he gives his receivers a chance. And so I do think Broncos are the better team. There are plenty of worlds where this game ends with Drake London, 9 catches, 108 yards to score, and the Falcons win it.
Also, I don't want to talk about this, but the Falcons missing the field goals.
Young way.
Concerning. It's concerning, especially in a close game. All right. Chiefs Bills. Whoo, baby. For some reason, I thought they already played this.
I can't believe we haven't even hit Chiefs Bills yet. I'm exhausted. What a week. God.
We've got Chiefs Bills, Bengals Chargers. Oh. Kirsten, you skipped Colts Jets and Vikings Titans.
Yeah, Kirsten, get over it. They're not real games this week.
Okay. Colts Jets is actually interesting. We should shout out to Kirsten. I don't know why I saw Ravens Steelers and my brain just went
Here we go.
Okay, let's just talk about the actually interesting thing about Colts Jets, which of course is that Anthony Richardson is unbenched. I haven't seen all of Steichen's quotes about it. I did see Anthony Richardson saying all the right things about, the preparation and lessons learned and all of that. I think it's notable that he is unbenched for this particular game because the Jets cannot stop the run. And we have, of course, seen that the running game is limited without Richardson back there next to Jonathan Taylor. So in my mind, there's a real opportunity here for the Colts to get the run game back on track against a team that has been really abysmal tackling.
Yeah. The best part of the Steichen quotes that you haven't caught up to yet is Steichen's he's our starter for the rest of the season. And everybody is being like, Anthony Richardson, report, starter the rest of the season. Okay, we just did this. He's the starter for this week. I promise you it's just this week, and then we got to see what happens. I do think that, the Jonathan Taylor, the Anthony Richardson, the run game from the gun, I think that's something that the Jets, if you go and you look, okay, the run defense has been bad this season. If you split it by the gun run teams versus the under center teams, you can see, oh, when they get gun run teams and they're kind of in pass rush mode, right? And they're worried about that, then they're in trouble a little bit. And the Colts are a big gun run team. I also think that, yeah, like you have a listless Jets team that kind of is fighting for nothing. And you put Anthony Richardson back there to kind of like, fight for your job, fight for your, like you are a guys worthy of development. Like I think you could see a potentially very impassioned Colts team with something to prove going against a kind of vestigial Jets team with very little to prove. And it's a good spot to get. Yeah, it's very. I think it's a good spot to get Richardson back out there. I'm glad they're doing it.
The Colts pass rush has also looked a lot better since DeForest Buckner has come back into the lineup, and that's going to be massive for them on the other side of the ball.
Yeah. Colts, remember, one game out of the AFC wild card. All right, we're still live. Here we go.
Are you going to take the Colts in this?
The moment the Richardson news dropped, I took the Colts. They're a 3-point dog now. By the time the line has moved this much, I think they win it. They have a 25% chance to make the playoffs, and I think that Richardson back in there is going to give them a little juice.
I'll take the Colts as well. I don't know. I'm a little bit more skeptical. Like that, I do think that the offense will still have a lot of issues, but if they can get enough going in the ground game, I think that'll be enough. Okay, you are Vikings Titans. Again, this is not a game that merits a great deal of conversation. Is there anything you would like to talk about? I have a suspicion. I know what it is.
I gotta find Vikings Titans now. I scrolled too far down in the thing.
Can I try to guess what your point is? Is it you're
me.
going to say it's going to come down to whether the Titans pass rush can make Sam Darnold not go Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I'm in that region. My line is, let's take a little bit off of Darnold's plate. All right, let's relax a little, because it was really cool in the first month of the season when Sam was just hitting everything, and there was no TJ Hawkinson, there was no Jordan Addison, but we're throwing a Jalen Naylor. Look at this, is incredible. And then we face a Jags team that we should just beat. Right, we're a better team than them. Mac Jones in there, let's just beat them. And we have Sam attempting sideline throws 18 yards down the field when he just doesn't need to. Right, I'm sure it feels great to trust the guy enough to take the training wheels off the passing game for Kevin O'Connell, but against inferior teams, and especially against teams that can turn the ball over on you the way the Titans defense can, let's get back to some kid gloves, right? Aaron Jones is going to play in this game. Let's get a few more Aaron Jones screens going, move the ball down the field. Let's get TJ Hawkinson underneath. Like, just because we have all the toys back in the passing game doesn't mean we need to let the Bronco buck. We kind of know what it looks like when Sam Darnold lets the Bronco buck. Worth noting, both Quandre Diggs and Cheeto Awuzie in the secondary for the Titans on IR, not in this game. Like, this Titans pass defense has been great, but they have lost a couple of their key bodies. But Jarius Sneed's still questionable. And so there's going to be air. There's going to be space. Just play the hits. Just keep it comfortable. Let's not do a 3 interception in the opposing team's half of the field game again, so we don't have to sweat this one.
Taking Vikings.
Yeah, Vikings as well.
Okay, back to Chiefs Bills.
Here we go.
Now back to the
We're back.
Falcons. There's a couple different directions we're going to go with the Bills, who I'm talking about. I'm going to focus on the Bills offense. This Bills offense has been significantly better against zone coverage than man, for obvious reasons. It is not a group of world beaters right now at pass catchers. We'll see Mark Cooper has been injured. We'll see, and obviously he's not been fully integrated to the offense, but it's very clear that if you can really play sticky man coverage against them, you can cause problems for this unit. So I wrote down, one, can they find ways to activate Khalil Shakir against man coverage? Because that's, ball in his hands, pulling away from defenders in the shallow intermediate part of the field, getting yards after the catch. And then I wrote, big Josh Allen legs game.
Yeah, any big game for the Bills always
any Bills game, but especially against a team that we know is going to press. They're going to turn their backs on him at some points. What I would do against Buffalo, maybe they're going to find ways for someone to keep eyes on him. But I do think that there will be not just opportunities, but needed. It's going to be not a luxury, but a necessity in this one if the Bills want to move the ball on offense and keep it out of Patrick Mahomes' hands.
Yeah, so I also had the Bills offense as my kind of focal point from the Chiefs perspective, and I wonder how much of your man zone split is the same, is kind of correlated to the split I looked at. This, we want to force the Bills offense into third downs. We want to make Josh Allen drop back on third down, which sounds weird, but stick with me. Right now, the Bills offense is 2 very distinct modes in their passing game. On first and second down, they're the 5th highest screen rate team in all of football. All right. Josh Allen is 39th in air yards to the sticks, throwing the ball very shallow, and he's 38th in time to throw. Ball's out real fast, right? That's on first and second down. That's their constraint play game and the dump off game and all the runs packaged with the RPO stuff. On third down, screen rate plummets, right? 26%. Air yards to the sticks, 5th highest. time to throw ninth longest, right? When they get like, it is okay, here's our little college style offense. Here's our Joe Brady RPO. Here's our little cute stuff. Here's our little box count. And the second they get to third and long, it's like, or any third down, not just third and long. They're like, hey, Josh, do something. And Josh's do something right now is very zany Josh, right? Like he's 36th in off target rate on third down. He's only scrambling 4% of the time. Like he's back there and just kind of spraying it. And you saw against the Colts, like it was a little bit of a harrowing game for the Bills because the scoreboard looks great. You watch that film.
No,
Josh is missing players down the field. And so if I'm the Chiefs and I'm a really good screen defense team on early downs, right? Chiefs are really good at condensing the short areas, or fourth in success rate against throws, 5 yards behind line of scrimmage and closer. Let's rally up and tackle, right? Let's hit those screens. Let's try to invite those runs. Let's win in that running game. Let's get them into third and medium, and let's see if we can get enough bad Josh. Because Josh right now on third down, he makes the hero plays Mahomes does, but not nearly as consistently, right? He's 40% conversion rate. Mahomes is 54%. So we think we can win that methodical game if that's how both these offenses end up playing out.
To go back to kind of the Josh Allen legs thing, listening to you talk about those splits and what the Chiefs defense does well, I would also like to see less Josh Allen break in case of emergency draws, scrambles out of empty, and more Josh Allen designed QB runs. I think is a really good way to punish this Chiefs defense if they key on James Cook. And at least you don't even have to do it that much, but do it enough early in the game to sort of put the fear of God in them on defense. Because you don't want it to just be the button that they push to get out of trouble. You want to use it to dictate to the Chiefs defense in a way that we really don't see that the Bills do very much, but it's that time of year.
Yeah. And the thing that has been most impressive about Joe Brady has been the base offense that he has installed and how that has maximized Josh and how good the running game has become. The thing that often frustrates me about Joe Brady is he'll walk up into a matchup where it's like, okay, this is clearly the weakness. And they just kind of run their base stuff. It's like, all right, this is the NFL. It's not college. We got to be more flexible, right? We got to be a different team week over week. You can't just kind of run out with the greatest hits every single time. For example, the Chiefs are one of the worst defenses in the league against opposing tight ends. Right? They give up over 2 yards per route run. It's been an issue with their linebacker coverage. It's an issue structurally for how they get into their pass coverages, right? Like if you invest in Dalton Kincaid, who I know might be questionable for this game, got banged up against the Colts, but if you invested in Kincaid and Knox, this should be, and you have your wide receiver injuries. No Keon Coleman, Amari Cooper's questionable. This should be a 12 personnel game, run, and then get the tight ends involved in the passing game. But that's not what the Bills tend to do when they walk out in the first quarter. They tend to be there, 11 personnel, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel stuff. It's like, all right, like the weakness here is clear. You have to walk out with a bespoke game plan when you're going up against the Chiefs. Got to do it.
Kincaid against really anyone in the Bills in man coverage, but Justin Reed linebackers, that should be matchup that you want if you're Buffalo.
In the passing game, in the running game, that's where you get worried, right? Because the Chiefs are going to detonate against him. Yeah.
But that's not been consistent for this Bills offense this year. It's been really frustrating to watch. Other side of the ball is what I do want to talk about briefly because I want to ask you a question, which is whether or not you think the Mahomes third down thing is sustainable. So
absolutely not.
Okay, so Mahomes, I pulled up the splits. Is first in success rate on third down. It's not like he's horrible on early downs. He's top 10, but EPA per play, he's actually bottom of the NFL on early downs. That jumps up to 6 on third down. So I love it. Sometimes you can see like everybody start to notice the same thing. I feel like this is the week that all of us NFL dorks who have true media accounts all started like just noticing. And so typically that sort of thing is not particularly sustainable. That said, it is Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that the addition of DeAndre Hopkins has helped in that regard on, key downs. So I guess my question for you is, if you don't think it's sustainable, do you think there's anything the Bills can take advantage of this weekend to get him to third down?
Well, so the first thing is you have to make the third downs longer, right? The one of the reasons why the third down thing feels sustainable for Mahomes is because the Chiefs are playing for third down, which is heretical, right? Is that when other teams do this, we're furious with them, right? This Bobby Slowick Texans stop playing for third down, but the Chiefs are just trying to pick up 6 total yards in the first 2 downs, just to get to a 3rd and decent. So that way they can run their little underneath breaking stuff and they can stretch the field a little bit. And then if Mahomes doesn't like it, he can just go scramble and they go and they get it. And this doesn't work for anybody else because eventually you make an execution error. And so long as the Chiefs avoid penalties from their tackles, they don't make execution errors. And so you get to walk the football down the field. And so it does feel a little bit more sustainable and manageable because of the fact that the Chiefs are intentionally doing this. So the first thing you got to do is like, I'm so worried about the Bills just getting 4 yards to death by Kareem Hunt in
I
this
know.
game,
I
right?
know.
Like that, you got to be able to get to 2nd and 10 before you can get to 3rd and 8 plus, right? And so the first thing you do is that, and then the second thing is, uh, if the Chiefs are going to inch it on 3rd down, inch it on 3rd down, inch it on 3rd down, you probably like. I hate what I'm about to say. You probably want to blitz Mahomes. You probably want to make the ball come out faster. You probably want to get to the scramble play. That's would you, but it's you can't do that
No, no, no.
against him.
I right. Also, the Chiefs. When was the last time they had a high blitz game?
Yeah.
The the thing that I guess, as you were describing all of this, hold on, I want to pull something up really quickly. The reason why I'm kind of ripping my hair out a little bit is everything you're describing in terms of, stopping the Chiefs' run game on early downs, blitzing Mahomes, forcing 3rd and longs. The Broncos did all of that. The
Yeah.
defense was so
It was
good.
great. They were
They
excellent.
did they did all of the things that you have to do, and it wasn't enough, thanks to Leo Chanel and what but yeah, the Bills' problem is the Bills' defense is very different, right? They are
Mhm.
not the Broncos' defense. They do not blitz a lot. They are not that great against the run. They're okay, but they're not that great. So I do worry about them structurally against this Chiefs offense as such. I think the Bills' defense's best chance of this thing is just Rousseau or whoever teeing off on that rookie left tackle. I assume Suamatai is starting in this game. Wanya Morris not back.
Yeah, wine is questionable as of right now, but we haven't seen even a Wednesday injury report from them yet, and so we don't know.
Yeah. So
Mm.
that should be a matchup that heavily favors Buffalo.
Yeah.
So
The Sean McDermott defense philosophically wants to not disguise stuff. They want to pack intermediate and deep zones. They want to make you inch their way down the field. It's just exactly what the Chiefs are doing on offense this year. Like if they don't change any pitches, the Bills do, they're going to lose this game 24-17 in the most painful, agonizing death by a trillion paper cuts. Why can't we ever stop this guy? I want to go home. I don't want to play football anymore game that has ever been seen in history.
I want
They have to do weird things.
I wanted to pick the Bills so badly because I looked at this
Mhm.
on the schedule and said, "This is when the Chiefs lose. This is the game."
Right.
But it's tough from a matchup perspective, right?
Mhm.
It's just tough.
Let me spin the world for you. Gregory Rousseau against Wanya Morris, right? I think that Rousseau's been playing really nicely in the contract year there on the edge. And so I have the ability to get pressure with 4 really consistently. So I think that's one. 2, I think that they can make this not a Travis Kelsey game. I think that they have the tools in terms of Taylor Rapp and Terrell Bernard and Dorian Williams to make it harder for Kelsey. And then you have to run more through DeAndre Hopkins, more through Xavier Worthy, who like that's not going great. Juju might be back for this game. So okay, make it run more through Juju. So we have the ability to pressure Mahomes and decently take away Kelsey. It's always like to a degree on passing downs. Like to me, like that. Okay, that I can win on enough 3rd downs with that sort of a model. Again, I'm worried about the Kareem Hunt carry, which is so stupid because it's the Kareem Hunt carry. But like the Bills' run defense is just not got a lot of teeth to it right now. And then we talked about Zany Josh on 3rd down, but up against Mahomes, I could see Hero Josh just donning the superhero cape and having 6 incompletions and 4 total touchdowns. And then, okay, you outscore him. Because, like, if you can get the drop on the Chiefs, right? Like, oh, early turnover, big special teams play, all of a sudden it's 14-0. The Chiefs can't score fast. So if you can get a lead on them into the 3rd quarter, then you can put them in a really bad position. It's just the Broncos had their 2-score lead, and the Chiefs only needed 3 drives to clear it, right? But they can only do 3 drives because they're so incremental. So get a big lead early. Yeah, there are worlds. But yeah, Chiefs are going to win.
I just was looking back at the divisional round to see who defended Travis Kelsey the last time they played.
Yeah.
Um, leading targets were AJ Klein and Jordan Poyer, then Micah Hyde, all no longer on the team. So
Yep.
could have an easier or better time in this one, given the speed and youth of the spine of the defense. Yeah, it's
The Bills also have always struggled for the Chiefs pass catching backs, and right now, like that's Samaje Perine. Like they're a little bit catching them at an okay time, like personnel wise. I just don't know if I have faith that it materializes in a victory.
I'm trying to
Poor
think of
Buffalo,
a
man.
machine to describe the Chiefs' run game that's not a buzzsaw or a threshing machine. It's like one of those stone things you buy that you make guacamole out of.
A
A
mortal and
mortar.
pestle. Right. I was thinking of the thing that flattens out the blacktop after they lay it down, like just like the big giant
Oh, the
roller that just goes
asphalt
super
roller.
slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's just like there isn't a single run that's good. And then you look at the stats at the end of the game, you're like, they were all good. They were all high success rate. They all moved the sticks. It's so
I don't
frustrating.
think there's a machine that interested me more as a child than what you're describing. The thing
Big
that did
asphalt machine.
the asphalt machine, yeah. Okay. A meat grinder, a
Meat
sausage
run.
maker.
Yeah.
Okay, Bengals Chargers, Sunday Night Football. We got 2 more games.
Who are you picking? Bills Chiefs.
Oh, Chiefs. I'm big
Yeah.
Chiefs.
I'm picking Chiefs too. They're
I
underdogs,
I
but
really wanted to take the
yeah.
Bills. I really did, but I just the matchups to me are
I
not good.
hope the Bills win. I'll be
Me
rooting for the
too.
Bills. I won't believe it until I see 3-0s, but I'm rooting for them.
Okay. I'm Chargers, you're Bengals. You go first.
Yeah, we want to test these young corners that the Chargers have. Chargers have been unbelievable on defense. Jesse Minter, out of his mind. Jesse Minter, by the way, like the the Chargers don't run like sim pressures, creepers. Oh, the Mike McDonald stuff. They don't do it. Like Minter's just running the stuff that works for his personnel. Like I of the coaches I've been impressed with this year, I think he's number one. I really didn't think a college guy who's a chip off the McDonald block, who's a chip off the Martindale block, was going to have new stuff. And he's doing weirdly a lot of what Brandon Staley hoped to and wanted to do with the Chargers,
Yeah.
just very quietly without great personnel. And so shout out Minter.
Defending the run well with the highest light
Lightest
boxes
boxes.
in football. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just tackling, rallying to the ball,
They
communicating,
yeah.
identifying screens. It's just like
He's
good
the Brandon Staley
fundamentals.
that was promised, and it's happening in Los Angeles of all places. Regardless,
Okay, so those young corners,
yeah,
though, that is Tarheeb Stills, Cam.
yeah. Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart, both of whom are rookies. Cam Hart out of Notre Dame, Tarheeb Still out of Maryland, and both those guys have to be in. Asante Samuel Jr. went out. Christian Fulton's been banged up. Fulton might be back, but these 2 guys have been playing great for them over the last 5 weeks. The problem is the opponents, right? Again, they've been playing well. But they had Bo Nix in week 6, Cortland Sutton. Obviously,
Yeah.
Not terrible, but hasn't been great. Week 7, Kyler Murray, who doesn't really throw to like they locked down Marvin Harrison, but that was the game where everybody was like, okay, you got to do something different with Marv. Like that wasn't a super tough opponent. Spencer Rattler, Chris Olave in week 8, and Chris Olave had 8 catches for 107 yards. Like he got his. Week 9 was Jameis throwing to Cedric Tillman and Jerry Jeudy, and then week 10 was Will Levis throwing to Calvin Ridley. Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase is just objectively a level of quarterback to wide receiver play that these guys have not yet seen at the outside position. T. Higgins is a hopeful go for this game. He was working on a rehab field on Wednesday. He was seen sprinting. If you get T, Jamar, and Burrow in this game, then you're just going after the rookies, and you're really testing the metal of guys who've played well but haven't seen it like this. They have not seen. I know that like Chargers fans are gonna be mad at me because they've played great, but they simply haven't seen it like this yet in the NFL. So we're gonna give those guys a test for 4 quarters. We think we can throw on them.
Yeah, I think that the Chargers will play this one pretty conservatively on the back end and just try to get Burrow to work underneath. They're going to obviously they want them to run the ball. That's a win for them. But I, I just even if you're sitting back and you're playing more shell against this team, they can still get burned downfield because Burrow's willing to actually make those throws and the receivers can win. But also Jamar Chase with the ball in his hands. I mean, I don't know. I think they're like to, as you said, I think that they're going to be tested in a way they just haven't been by these receivers and this quarterback in particular. And I think that the Bengals will have success. I mean, the Chargers pass rush has also been really good. Khalil Mack has continued to play at a really high level. The defensive tackles have been good. But yeah, Puna. But this is a tough matchup for them.
Yeah. The thing about this Chargers team is that I think that they're going to turn the dials to 11 on. We got 3 safeties deep because they'll do that, right? They're in 3 safety structure.
A lot of time.
We have clouds over both corners, right? Like obviously you're going to get yours on us, but like we are going to turn the pass defense dials up to a 12. All right, run it, Cincinnati. And there have been games, there have been moments from this line for Chase Brown and for this line where it's like, oh, like this, yeah, they're getting under center more and they're running the ball more. This Chargers run defense pretty good. Diane Hanley linebacker playing great ball. He's got Puna on the interior, Morgan Fox, Tuli Tuipulotu on the outside. Like they've got guys against the run, and so it's
So
if you can trick the Bengals into running it too much and they bang their head against the wall, you can win this.
so that brings me to the other side of the football. So I think we both agree that the Chargers, if the Bengals hand the football off, that's a win. That's what you want
Yeah.
to happen.
Mhm.
Is it a win for Cincinnati? Because Cincinnati
No.
Bengals run defense, yeah, has been obviously atrocious. So, but the interesting thing about the Chargers, Ben, and I wanted to. This is why I bring this up. There is, I can't even count the number of times I've listened to people talk about them and said, yeah, they just have that dominant run game. No, they're not good.
Justin Herbert never gets his flowers. Never.
They're, the branding, and a lot of it is the offseason and Harbaugh and Roman and the way they approach the draft and all of it. Not only do they not run the football well, they're 29th in rushing success rate, 16th in DVOA. They don't run it that often either anymore. They've kind of, Giro has
Mhm.
not been stubborn about it, to his credit. They have realized they're not particularly great at running the football. And who is good at running the football though? Justin Herbert. Holy smokes, what he did to that Titans defense.
Highest scramble rate of his career this season.
And
Justin's moving.
he wasn't, because it took me a couple days to get to this game, but he wasn't just running. He was embarrassing
Yeah.
defenders. What game? Okay, so anyway,
You sound like Jim Harbaugh watching Justin right now.
listen,
Beast. I call him Beast. That's what I call him, calling him Beast.
let's get back though to the game. Like, so do you think that LA should run the ball against Cincinnati? Do you think they'll have success doing so? Obviously, this Bengals defense is not good.
I think you can do whatever you want. I think that since the bye week, right? The Chargers before the bye week were very heavy run rate over expected. Since the bye week, heavy pass rate over expected. I think you've now, like, Herbert has earned your faith. Quentin Johnson and his play has earned your faith. Like Lad McConkey and his play, like you didn't know what your guys might have been at receiver, and now you feel like you know a little better. Will Dissly, I can't believe I didn't start with Will Dissly. My apologies. Will Dissly has earned your faith, right? You now feel like confident living in a drop back game. Now, if you walk out and it's not working, I think absolutely you can put Matt Locke back out there and bring the other tight ends out there and stick J.K. Dobbins and give that a whirl. So I think it's going to be a very balanced approach from the Chargers. Your big concern facing the Bengals is Trey Hendrickson, and you feel good about your left tackle spot. So like this is I want to say it's a 1 point spread, and I understand the respect we're giving Joe Burrow in this passing game when they're down, but like the Cincinnati Bengals are not stopping the way that Justin Herbert is playing football at this current point. Like the Chargers should be able to have long drives, have drives end at 7. And critically, even when they've been now this pass happy team, they'll put together a 14 play, 8-yard drive that just takes the whole air out of this game. Like if you're worried about the rookie corners against Joe, best thing you can do is put Joe's butt on the sideline and make him ride it for 8 minutes. And so I think they're going to have some really well constructed situational football from Harbaugh and the Chargers.
Big showcase for Herbert, because I don't think, to what we were kind of joking about with the run game, I do not think it's been appreciated perhaps how well he's playing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, have they had a night game all year? I don't think so, right? Unless I'm
Cardinals was like
no.
a double
Yeah.
a double Monday night header, and I think the other game was really good, and so no one really watched.
Yeah. So
they scored 5 field goals. They didn't punch it in. Yeah.
This is a big one, because I think I agree with you. This is a matchup that he should be able to take advantage of. I'm actually going to go Bengals, though. I feel like Bengals back against the wall. They got to win out. Prime time, Joe Burrow, those Chargers corners. I hear you. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to take Cincinnati.
I think the Chargers win it, and I think that Cincinnati gave that huge effort against the Ravens, and I think that kind of pulls
you got a letdown for both teams now, huh?
Yeah, pulls the chair out from under the team a little bit. I will say that like T back, which I'll when T is back, I'll see when I believe it a little bit. But T back it would be a very big deal for this game. We just don't know yet.
All right, Monday Night Football. I'm going to be in Dallas for this one. Texans Cowboys.
Bring sunglasses.
I know. We're actually taping our show during the day because it's on at, I guess, 2:00 Central Time is Dallas' Central Time. Anyway, so the sun should be in full effect in the stadium. Okay. Nico Collins. Back. God. Thank God.
It's like the fog is lifted in Tangled. Oh, I'm so thrilled.
I haven't seen Tangled, but
bad take. Good movie.
Let's see. So I will go first on this one. I am on the
Mhm.
Dallas side of these things. I am not gonna acknowledge I don't even I assume it's just gonna be Cooper Rush again, right? Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Against this Texans defense, whew, don't like. Um, Cowboys pass rush just has to go absolutely nuclear for them to have a shot in this one, right? The thing is, how do I put this? All Not all of the things, because obviously the Texans don't have a good run game, and we know that that's been such a weakness for this Dallas defense. But the pass defense for Dallas has really struggled versus play action. They've really struggled versus intermediate passes, dead last in the NFL in EPA per play versus 10 to 20-yard passes, much better, deeper, shallow. And they've really struggled against passes on first down when the pass rush can't tee off.
Do you want to list the things they've been good at? A little shorter, like save some time on the
They're
plot.
not as bad on like third down and deep passes, and so
Yeah.
those are actually the things where I chose the things where they're dead last.
Yeah.
Okay, so play action, first down, those things are obviously related. Intermediate passes, those are all the things that the Texans offense with Nico Collins should be very good at.
Mhm.
They have not been good, over the last few weeks without their receiver, number one receiver. So, the hope for Houston is, I realize I'm pivoting away from Dallas, is that the offense looks a lot more like it did with Nico now that he is back, where you are hitting those in breakers, play action, middle of the field, just early down so that your quarterback isn't constantly in third and long.
Yeah. For the Texans, I wrote like either run it or pass it. Like that's the key to this game. Just be on offense, right? Just like just to show up for the game. You should be so good at what Dallas is so bad at,
Yeah.
right? You should be able to get under center, and you should be able to put a second tight end on the field, and you should be able to run it with Joe Mixon. They've had questionable interior offensive line play. They've now moved Juice Scruggs to left tackle, or excuse me, to left guard, such that Jarrett Patterson can be center. Both of positions those guys played last year when this line was actually better. And so I think that there's hope for the Texans offensive line to go from big problem to not liability, right? League average. And I think that this group of players is the one to do it at these positions. So you should be able to run it against Dallas. Terrible against outside zone. Dallas is Houston outside zone team. And then when you throw it, yeah, this is it. When they're a single high team, when they're gapped out, you throw to the middle of the field. You throw in front of that deep safety. Nico Collins clarifies Tank Dell, right? He clarifies
Yeah.
Dalton Schultz. You don't have to use these guys like you've been using them. Like even like John Mechie, who I think will probably be in a lot of those three receiver sets, right? In the absence of Stephon Diggs, like even Mechie's role just makes more sense as the underneath man coverage route run beater guy instead of having to run the 15-yard Nico Collins, crosser down the middle of the field. And so it, this should be such a nice mouthwash game for the Texans. It should be
Yeah.
nice, such a nice return to normalcy. And even if it is on offense, even if things are herky jerky and the line's still not playing that great and Nico's not 100% back, put Derek Stingley up on the line of scrimmage, put Kamari Laster up on the line of scrimmage, and then flip the bird to Cooper Rush. Like,
Yeah.
what do you like? You don't like
They're
even
gonna
when
be
Dak was
they're
in
gonna
there.
be
Yeah,
hella. D'Amico Ryan's is
yeah,
gonna be super aggressive against
yeah.
Cooper Rush. Um, I might line up Micah inside. I'm moving him around. Like I said, if I'm Dallas, that's
Mhm.
he looked good.
Yeah,
Like
you have to find a way to make him more of like a
he has to
vocal piece, and less of like a we line our guy up here and we want him to
he
win
has
because
to
he's your
affect,
only player on defense right now.
and it has to come on, early downs. If you get them into third and long, I actually think that that's when this Dallas defense has a chance. Taking Houston for this reason, I like the idea of, or I like what you said about this being a mouthwash game. Pardon me.
Yeah,
And man, boy, Nico Collins. Whew.
yeah. The Texans need a win so bad. Nico is back. Will Anderson is questionable, but he might be back. And the Cowboys are reeling. Like this feels like if I were D'Amico, like behind closed doors, I'd be like, "Yo, we're winning by 30. Like we are
Yeah.
foot to pedal to the metal for 4 quarters. We need to feel that again after the way that we lost to the Jets and then the Lions both in prime time. Like let's get back to what we do well.
Yeah, the Texans are fortunate because the division seems so easy right now, and it feels like they can, sustain their lead even though they haven't been playing good football. But the goal of this year was not to win the division; it's to make a playoff run, to win a
Mhm.
playoff game, and then be competitive. And so it starts this week after what has been going. I mean, the loss to the Lions, such an emotional letdown, just brutal performance from the offense. So really a get right opportunity here for
Right
CJ Stroud.
after
I'm
this,
hopeful.
yeah. After it's Dallas home against the Titans at the Jaguars bye week. Texans have not yet had their bye week. They have a week 14 bye. And then Dolphins, which like, okay, maybe that'll be good. Maybe that won't be. Who knows? And then Chiefs, Baltimore, week 16, week 17. So you have a month to reconvince yourself you're a contender, right? Exactly. Build a cushion, make sure you're going to be a top seed. And then it's litmus test time. It's Baltimore and Kansas City, that Kansas City game in Arrowhead. That's where we gut check. We make sure we're the team we think we are.
We're both taking Houston, I presume.
Houston big, yeah.
Okay. That's it for this week. Ben, tell folks where they can catch your work right now.
Yeah, the columns are up at ESPN. The podcast is here, and then ESPN Daily. We go listen to that one as well. We have a good time.
Awesome. Possibly you can find Ben on Blue Sky by the time this podcast hits your ears. You can find me there, Mina Kimes. You can also find this podcast at youtube.com/@Mina Kimes. Throw us a subscribe, put clips on there other than the podcast as well. You can find me on, the various social platforms. Thank you, as always, to the fine folks at Omaha Productions for making this podcast. Kirsten Specky, Anthony Jimenez, Owen Saylor, Jack Foster, Tucker Tastian, and I will see you guys next week. Wow!